Still your fire.
Hello, everyone. We're gonna get this party started in a few here. I would love to welcome up. We have Amy, Sean, and Brian featuring the Love Squad. Let's go, guys.
Pay attention or continue talking. All that stuff.
Continue going about your business. No need to stop and listen. Drink some wine, talk story, have fun.
Where Mr. Matthew go? Mr. Matthew. There's this thing I want to do when we do that. Must be on the Intermission with the hair out. For now? Alright. Go for it. Oh, really? Sure. Yeah, I thought you were going to. You kind of needs to brought a brush. You has a brush. Sorry. What's the one that was? That was not last night, no. It's the second verse at the beginning. Shall I stay?
Hey, thank you everyone for coming, by the way. This is really cool. It's kind of a unique event that we get to do tonight, so I'm really excited about it. We've got some really great music. These guys are super talented musicians. They're kind of a mishmash from these several different bands here on the island. Amy's from DNA Muse. Give it up for DNA Muse. They're awesome. And from the Ukus, if you haven't heard the Ukus, they're awesome as well. Sean is from Shades. Brian is from Ukus and Schoolboy and Shades. He's going for a record of the most bands, one band a month this year. He's going for 12 bands this year. All right, so give it up for the Love Squad, and thank you. So we're gonna have some music, a little break, and then stories afterwards. So enjoy, circulate, get some wine. There's chocolate. It's all delicious. Thank you. Let's give it up for our Love Squad. Thank you.
obviously that was Elvis. This next one is by a New Zealand artist called Arahdna, and it's called Forever Love.
Okay, we're gonna give you a 2-for-1. This next one is a mashup of a song you probably don't know and a song you probably do know. So I'll tell you what it is. You can figure it out. Well, you guys are all beautiful. Thank you for being here. I hope you're excited to hear some amazing stories about modern love. wanna make it easy on you, baby. I 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 wanna make it what do we got next? I think we need to flip the card. We're on side B now. We didn't completely memorize all the chords for these songs, so we're kind of cheating.
Huh? Sound guy.
You're a sound guy? How's it?
I'm live stream guy.
Okay.
Side B. Okay, this is where it gets a little serious. So, not all the songs that we are playing tonight are happy love songs. They are all about love, but sometimes love is shitty and sucks. So, yay! Yay!
I'm really like a quick. I'm doing that like faster. Thank you, dude.
I'm gonna play another breakup song.
For all those breakups people out there.
Okay. I don't know if you guys know who Billie Eilish is, but we're gonna do one of her songs next. Billie Eilish.
Truly?
Anything really. I appreciate it, man.
you understand? I changed my plans 'cause I'm in love with my future. Can't wait to meet her. I'm in love, but not with anybody else. Just wanna get control of myself. No, I'm supposed to be unhappy without someone, but I got then I'll be yours again. But I'm in with my future, and you don't know. And I'm in love, but not with anybody. I'll see you later, Gotye. Can't you hear me? I'm not coming home.
John, it's underneath the Brian.
Yeah, I didn't know. I would have thought it. I thought I was just streaming talker.
Looks good though. Go a shot of it. Fuck, I don't know. I don't even want to do this. I got forced to do this. How have you been?
some love stories. So not boo.
Ruin it for us.
But it's our last song, but it's actually 2 in 1. So just because I love you guys.
Take me
Like give them an outro and say, okay, 7:30, grab some more wine, some more chocolate, napkin is encouraged, whatever.
Sometimes it'll be too many.
You're the one that I want.
Mahalo Love Squad can get another round of applause in the back. So we're going to be starting the event at 7:30. So feel free to get more wine, get more chocolate, and we're going to get this shindig going. We do have the wines available for self-service. There's also a Venmo link if you would choose to donate as well. And please visit the wonderful chocolate bar as well. Great pairings going on, guys. 7:30.
So, do we get to jam? Oh, every day.
It's more natural. You want a gusher before you leave? Gusher?
boredom. So like we were gonna watch it, but they're supposed to open up dummy, and then they sent them to the but also, I think he's been napping too because we didn't get home till like 3 or something last night. And he worked at like
I was acting up last night. Yeah, butts up.
There's like a girl that like used to work at Ice. She doesn't know me or anything, but she like is very like she's like one of those girls that like doesn't like other girls.
Like she wants to be the girl of the group.
Yeah, so like when me and Natsu first pulled up, she's like, "Who are you?" I'm just having a great fucking time. You are, you know, just like whatever. And then her boyfriend started being fucking weird to me. Like I was like talking to him about golf, and he's like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I love you. I break up my drinks." Like, "Oh, it sucks." Like, and talking shit, and I was like, "Just I spit about that."
Michael, kick his ass.
I was gonna kick his ass.
My husband's gonna kick your ass. My parents, when she would like get drunk in the bar, she'd be like, "I'm gonna kick your ass." And I'm like, okay, are you okay, you gotta stop running. I'm gonna get a fucking shot. No, I mean, I'll scrap anybody, but still, yeah. But, I'll give you that.
Hello, hi everyone. Let's get this party started. Hello, 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 modern love, lovers and friends. We're going to get the show started here. Thanks again to Love Squad for setting the mood right. Woo! I'm Ariana. I'll be your MC this evening and also one of the sommeliers on deck. So make sure you grab yourself a glass and get some chocolate. One of my favorite things about this event is it's all about storytelling. So my medium for storytelling is serving wine. Wine in itself has a wonderful, opulent history. Wine also brings people together, and that's how I share my love, by sharing wine with all of you. One of the first wines that we were actually serving this evening was the Sirocco Moscato out of Piemonte, Italy. And it's one of my favorites because all the wines that we love to serve, specifically with my brother Kale here on our Uncut podcast, are family-owned wineries that have been doing the practice for generations and passing down traditions. So the Sirocco family has actually been producing this wine since the early 1900s, and they pass it down from father to son, son to son, and thus we get what's in our glass today. So I'm really excited to cheers with you all. Let's get a nice cheers.
Thank you.
Yep.
To storytelling and to modern love, and I would love to bring up Candace. She is a teacher extraordinaire teaching out of Olamana, and she loves all things nerdy. That's my girl. She loves her Marvel, Lord of the Rings. Let's go. Give it up for Candace. Woo! Woo!
Here, pour that up.
One of the deep secrets of my life is that I have several years of dance lessons under my belt. 6 years, to be exact. My mother, who loves me, once said, Candace, you should never tell anyone you took dance lessons for 6 years. Except, I did the math when I started writing this, and that didn't quite add up. I know I quit dance in 6th grade, and I know I was younger than 6 when I started. So when I reached out to my mom to clarify, I realized it was actually 8 years. 8 years of wasted dance lessons. It's funny the way the brain works. As I struggled to write about love, Habanera from Carmen would not stop rattling through my brain, seemingly taunting me. I'm willing to bet you know that aria, even if you think you don't. It begins with this sultry bass line that's like boom, 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 and then Carmen enters in all of her glory, like and then this is the part that was stuck in my head. L'amour, 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 l'amour. Right? That song, you've heard it, right? You've heard it. It's the song in any commercial ever where the intended trope is woman sings opera. So dance was not for me, but music certainly was. And I found my home there for a long time. And as a mezzo-soprano, Carmen and I are old friends. So naturally, she returned to sing to me when I was tasked to write about l'amour. So, modern l'amour. It's a weird concept. What makes love modern? I myself have practiced an old-fashioned sort of love for a while now, based on the principle that love is patient and kind. It does not envy or boast. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love hopes all things, endures all things. Those are the principles I think of when it comes to love. I will admit, though, that my understanding of love shifted this past year. It deepened, grew. I found myself asking, musing to myself and others, what does it mean to truly love? And remember, all the while, I'm trying to write this and rattling around inside my crazy brain. L'amour, l'amour. Come on, brain, focus. What does it mean to truly love? The answer is always vague because it's difficult to place. So as I continued to struggle, I thought, well, okay, what does love look like then? And that was significantly easier. Love looks like holding hands with your best friend as you cross the finish line after 26.2 miles. It looks like a community built over wine and hors d'oeuvres and encouragement and fragmented writing ideas. It's like the sound of your husband's steady breath as he drifts off to sleep, and the swelling that happens inside as you remember who you are. It looks like a text about love gone wrong, and dropping all plans to spend the afternoon listening, understanding, supporting, until eventually enough dog owners eager to chat about their own furry four-legged loves have passed by, until you run into random musician friends and have a quick jam, until you've gotten boba and literally you walked into a Hawaiian sunset, until you've teetered on rocks and watched waves crash and swell and spray their salty sighs around you, until you've watched the stars slowly appear and pointed out different constellations, until you've done all of this, or whatever other serendipitous escapade it takes for that texter to leave you light when they came to you unbearably heavy. That is love. Love looks like 4-hour phone calls with sisters discussing nothing and everything. Looks like a teacher who keeps her room open during lunch so the students have somewhere where they can gather and they feel like they belong. And they do, because she cultivated that space with them, for them. Love looks like a box of chocolates, wrapped with care and brought from the Big Island, handed to you by your coach and brought from his recently visited home. It looks like all the extra hours we spend in that sweaty bag room. After class and sparring, we create a fitness community, chatting and laughing, and taking silly pictures in new Muay Thai shorts. The brain really is weird, you know? As I continue to study more of Muay Thai, I keep retrieving this old, ancient knowledge I didn't know my brain still carried. Extra step back before you throw that kick. Well, that's like a ball change. Fast feet warm up down the room. That's just a grapevine, right? Spot your target and let your head whip around before you throw that spinning elbow. Well, that's like doing a pirouette. I was always really terrible at pirouettes, the spotting, the spinning, all of that. So my spinning elbows have required a little extra work. But anyway, the brain is weird. Love looks like a carefully selected birthday card, dated and signed each year in my mom's immaculate handwriting. It looks like all those years of dance classes wasted. And voice lessons and piano lessons and choir rehearsals and dress rehearsals and recitals dutifully attended. It's like the sound of my dad's profuse praise anytime he hears me sing, and the tears that well up in our eyes when we're together. Modern love is gathering around a holiday meal and offering grace and patience when opposing political views are brought up, because this is the first time in 3 holiday seasons that you've sat around that table together, and distance and time produce perspective. Carmen says, "L'amour est un oiseau rebelle." Love is a rebellious bird. When you want it, it flies away, and it stays when you want it to go. It's unpredictable. That bird does exactly what it wants when it wants, and you have little say in the matter. Kind of like my brain infiltrating me with random dance steps and opera arias. But that's not all my brain infiltrates me with. As I continue to consider what this modern love is, I'm met with these flashes, scenes of love, with many different faces, all varied, all unique, and yet somehow they're all the same. Flash. Love is that look you give me that tells me you love me, and the look I give you in return. The one shared between just you and me. It's met with a smile, or a sigh, or longing, or a deep, uncontrollable laughter. Flash. Love is driving in the car and singing at the top of our lungs, and sometimes driving in quiet, comfortable silence. Love is looking in your eyes and not having to look away. Flash. Love is dancing in the kitchen and dusting off old swing dance patterns that still live in your oh-so-weird brain and stumbling through them together as sauces simmer and timers ding. Flash. Love is being in a different kitchen and singing Hobbit drinking songs, rowdy and intense and full of laughter that dances in our eyes. Or Hobbit walking songs, or Hobbit bath time songs, or Hobbit sitting beside the fire to think songs. And you know all the words with me. Flash. Love is crying at the airport with nothing left of you but the insufferable ache of your absence. Love is waiting. Love is knowing you, really truly knowing you, and being known by you in return. Flash. Love is sitting with all of you. The last one awake on Christmas Eve and quietly sobbing as George Bailey runs through the streets, epiphanized by what it truly means to have a wonderful life. And blinking through my tears, I look around and realize it too. All of these flashes, these scenes in my crazy, weird brain leave me spinning and reeling and feeling insanely euphoric and somber at the same time. And naturally, I've started to rhyme because that's another thing my crazy brain does. It feels the pulse of words, their rhythm, because it's all a song. It's all a dance, weaving together through choice and chance. And so, Flash, love is traveling to see you. And Flash, love is listening without the need to speak too. And Flash, love is sharing the pain and not just the joys. It's learning and teaching and trying, despite all the noise and chaos and late nights and fights. It's shedding pride, that innate human need to be right. I think love might be a pas de Blu-ray, a few musical steps that led me your way, and I learned to love deeper, remembered my roots. And Flash. Love is a walk in the woods on an unfamiliar route. The brain may be weird, but so is the heart, giving and growing and learning and loving. The most unique display of art is within us, buried deep, nestled among the memories we keep loving love and loving to share it. That untamable, rebellious bird is a mystery, and yet we wear it on our sleeves. It shimmers in our eyes. And so we must know it's no surprise that we know the tune's lore. L'amour is what we know to be true. L'amour. It is the eternal cure. L'amour. Love is the song we sing. L'amour. Love is the dance we all do.
The only person I know that can nail Carmen just as much as a Elvis drinking song, perhaps. So let's give it up one more time for Candace. Woo! Jack of all trades, storyteller, singer, and Muay Thai master, apparently. Next on the stage here, we're going to be bringing up another athlete. This is your appellate attorney and resident kook surfer of Treehouse. Let's give it up for Kai Lawrence. And ladies, he only sports a beard when he's in writer's mode. Bring it up, Kai.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming too. We really appreciate it. Wilderness is not a luxury, but a necessity of the human spirit, as vital to our lives as water and good bread. Edward Abbey. The morning was cool and crisp, the sun having not yet crested the horizon away to the east, and a chill breeze was blowing chalk and dust into my face as I pressed my cheek into the rock wall in front of me. It It was early on a Sunday morning, and my cousin and I were out on a beautiful and stunning 300-foot cliff face on my first ever multi-pitch rock climb. And we were just outside of a smallish town in southern Utah called St. George, the town where I grew up. The only problem was, at that moment, I wasn't actually climbing. I was clinging to the wall with fear, unable to move. And I was stuck at that moment. My cousin, we were 150 feet up, we were on the final pitch. My cousin had already climbed that section, so he had disappeared about 50 feet above me. He was roped directly into the rock wall, and he was manning my lifeline, an index finger's width of nylon rope that looped from me up through anchors above before connecting to my cousin, who would reel in the slack as I climbed up to meet him. Like I said, however, at that moment, I wasn't actually climbing. I was stuck, pancaked to the wall, unable to move for fear, feeling the rush of wind in my ears as I tried not to think of the emptiness below me. I stared at my left leg, trying to will it to move to the foothold above, the foothold I could see in front of me. Move, leg, I said. Come on, leg, move. But my unruly leg wouldn't listen. I chanced another glance down at the ground spinning away below me at that moment. That was a bad idea. Just then, my leg did start to move, not to the foothold above, but instead it just started shaking uncontrollably. Pretty soon, my right leg started following suit, both legs trembling against the cliff face. I felt like I was going to shake myself right off the cliff out into the void. I looked up trying to find my cousin, but the cliff ascended at a slightly outward angle, and so he was lost above the next lip, and all I could see was my lifeline disappearing into the heavens. As I was looking up in my terror at that moment, I could feel my right arm. It also started to shake. So there I was in terror, looking up, trying to find my cousin, 3 of my 5 limbs shaking uncontrollably. And I yelled up to my cousin. I said, "Soup!" Now, my cousin's nickname is Soup. That's spelled S-U-P-E as in Superman, not S-O-U-P as in Campbell's. This story might explain why, maybe not, I don't know. But anyway, so in my terror, I yelled up to Soup. I said, "Soup! I'm freaking out, man. I don't know if I can keep going. I feel like I can't move. I don't know if I'll finish this." Now, Utah is a really beautiful landscape, and those mountains and cliffs that we are climbing were created over millennia through plate tectonic movement. You see, 500 million years ago, Utah sat roughly where it sits now, except that it was the western coast of the continent. There was no Nevada, no California, there was just an ocean. So Utah existed at that time as a coast and a seabed. But over millennia, plate tectonics slowly shifted landmass up and forced the ocean further west, leaving Utah a barren and dry wasteland. It was a desert, and for 500 million years, wind whipped across this desert, bringing sand from other parts of the continent. Slowly, over 300 million years, these grains of sand piled grain upon grain upon grain to create these immense sand dunes that were at times 300 feet tall and as thick as 2,000 feet at the base. The cumulative weight of these grains of sand, together with the cement-like effects of water as it would seep through the cracks in the sand, slowly petrified these dunes, turning them to stone. And then for 300 million years, wind, rain, and time slowly ate away at these sand dunes, etching them into these beautiful and stunning cliffs that they are today, the same cliffs that my cousin and I were climbing that day. This history of Utah, however, this geologic history, was never something that I was taught growing up. Instead, growing up in Utah, and of course growing up Mormon, I was taught, like all good Utah Mormon kids, about the pioneers. Anyone heard of the pioneers? Maybe. The pioneers were the followers of the early Mormon church who left their homes in the 1800s. They left their homes in the east to follow their prophets, Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, on the long, arduous, and handcart-laden trek to the west, to Zion, to Utah. It then was in this context that I learned about these mountains and cliffs, not for their beauty and majesty, but for the obstacle that they represented for this early Mormon church. As I was growing up, I had very little education in the outdoors. I had little to no appreciation for the millennia of time it took to form this beautiful place and these beautiful mountains. And I had no spiritual connection in any sense to this, quote, promised land. Instead, growing up Mormon, I spent my youth climbing the mountains of guilt and shame that make up most of Christianity. I held to the, let that sink in. I held to the tenets of my parents' faith for quite a long time, even though it felt like it was slowly sapping my personality and my energy, and it felt like it wasn't right for me. Mormonism led me on a mission. It eventually led me to attend Brigham Young University, the Mormon college in Utah, and it was there that I met a nice young Mormon girl. And we fell in love, and she was the love of my life. And we did what a lot of good Mormons do. We got married really young. And ostensibly because we were in love, but really it was because we just wanted to have sex. That's something forbidden outside of marriage in most religions, including Mormonism. 12 years we were together, and the faith that we had built on was relatively shaky, and the lack of any real-world experience for either of us left us both ill at ease, struggling with wonder of what could have been or might have been if we'd chosen different paths or different lives. Eventually, we moved away from Utah. We moved to Los Angeles, where I went to school. And then from Los Angeles, we made our way to Kauai. This was in 2010, and we lived there for 8 years. In 2014, we decided to stop being Mormon, and we left the church. It was the best decision I ever made. At the time, I was still very much in love with my ex, and so this new phase of life I looked forward to was I wanted to grow and change together. But for her, I think that this change caused more longing, or it changed her somehow. Eventually, while we were still together, she ended up stepping outside of the marriage, and she found someone else. And in doing so, she broke something that had some real moments of beauty and some real purity, and it left me brokenhearted and shattered and feeling lost and alone along the way. This was 3 years ago that I went through this divorce and this breakup. And at the time, I felt like, I was living in Kauai, I felt this as a call back to Utah. I felt like Kauai was too small for my post-divorce self. And I felt like I needed to reconnect and ground. And so I did that. I packed up my things and I moved back to Utah. I was planning to stay there for about 6 months to a year, and then I would move myself back to Oahu. And when I went back to Utah, the feeling I got there was much different than I expected. I thought it would be this very calming and grounding place. But when I went back, all those same familial and religious issues that I'd experienced growing up were all still there waiting for me, having been left unaddressed as I essentially just ran away from them when I was younger. So when I got back home, I really struggled. I struggled with this place. I felt like it was a place that only offered dogma and oppression. I really felt the loathing for this place that was only surpassed by the loathing that I felt for myself at the time, actually. And it was while I was going through this struggle that my cousin Soup reached out to me, asked me if I wanted to learn how to rock climb, and I told him yes. And so for the next several months, we spent a lot of time on relatively easy climbs. He took me out, he's an expert, and so I learned a lot. My confidence grew, I had a lot of fun. And then I remember it was a Saturday afternoon that I got a text message from him, asking me if I wanted to go on my first ever multi-pitch rock climb. A multi-pitch rock climb is a rock climb. Most rock climbs, it's just a single pitch. So you just climb up, go back down, cousin goes up, goes back down. Multi-pitch is multi-sections of that. So the point is you can climb much higher and much more imposing mountains and pinnacles. So anyway, I read this text. He asked me if I wanted to go rock climbing, my first ever multi-pitch the next morning, Sunday morning. I remember I read it, I peed a little in my pants, I think. And then I texted him back a resounding yes. That night I could hardly sleep for thoughts of the fear and the heights filling my mind. If I did sleep, it was anything but restful. And a little aside, I had those same feelings last night, so you guys are as scary as a 300-foot fall to my death. Okay? So anyway, the next morning, finally morning came, and my cousin showed up to pick me up. We started making our way out of town, and I remember that the drive out of town was really pristine. The sun was not yet up, it was just starting to be light out, and the purples, oranges, and reds of the cliffs in southern Utah were beautiful as we drove out of town. We left the town, and eventually we made our way off of the highway onto this dirt road that meandered for a few miles before reaching the cliff base. And I remember as we drove on that dirt road, we passed this hidden oasis along the way, and I remember there was this one lone tree that was just clinging hard to the water's edge out there, its branches and leaves straining heavenward. We kept going, and eventually we made it to the base of the cliff, and when we got there, my heart sank because it was huge. It was more massive than anything we'd climbed so far. So I remember I'm pretty sure I peed in my pants a little bit again as we unloaded our gear, and then we made our way to the base of the cliff and started the climb. This was a 3-pitch climb. It was about 300 feet, 3 sections that we climbed. The first 2 were relatively easy. They were non-technical, not too difficult. I even led one of those pitches, my confidence building as I reached the anchors and belayed my cousin up to where I was. But the third pitch was much different. First, it was high. It was at least 150 feet in the air, and it was extremely technical and very scary. My cousin led that pitch, And I remember he went up and he disappeared over that lip above me, and so I was just left dangling, connected to the wall, manning the belay line, trying to just breathe and refocus. And then I heard his voice from above, and he said, "Kai, I've reached the anchors. I'm indirect. I've got you on belay. You can start your climb now." So I remember thinking cheekily to myself, to start my climb now, what does he mean? I've already been climbing. What did I do for 2 pitches? But truly, he was right. This was the start of the climb. Everything before this was easy, a cakewalk. So I started climbing, and I remember the challenging sections. There was the first section where essentially there's a slab on the face of the cliff, and I was climbing next to that slab, so I was kind of sheltered in this crack. Eventually, I had to make my way around onto the face of the slab, however, so I could continue climbing up. So what I did was I reached the corner, and I reached around, and I found a good hold on the side. And then I shifted my body weight so I could get my head around and look around the corner. And as I did, I felt this rush of wind whipping across the slab into my face. I made my way around, but it was this wind, this incessant wind, that I think froze me. It felt like I could just hear it in my ears, and it felt like it was trying to rip me from my perch. So there I was in this moment, my limbs shaking, trying to find my cousin. I yelled up to him that I was scared, and I didn't think I could make it. There was silence for a minute. Then I could hear my cousin's voice from above, steady and godlike. He said, "Kai, no worries." I remember thinking, no worries? So many words. He said, "Don't worry, it's just this primal fear that's ground into all of us through evolution." He said, I'm going to take up slack on the rope. Why don't you let go and sit back and just relax, breathe, and let's talk it out. I said, okay. So I looked at my right hand and tried to will it to let go. It wouldn't. I looked at my finger, finally got a finger to move. Then another, and another. Eventually I was able to let go and eventually sit back on the rope as I felt it tighten and catch me. I let out a breath I didn't even know I'd been holding. I sat there and just tried to breathe and refocus for a minute. It was silent. After about a minute, my cousin called down to me again. He said, "Kai, how you doing?" I said, "I'm doing okay, man." He said, "I know it's hard, but you got to remember there's no way off of this cliff except up. There's no down climbing out of this." He said, "But don't worry, I've got your back, and you've got all the tools inside of you that you need to be able to finish this climb." So I let that sink in for a minute, just continued to breathe. And then after a minute, I said, "All right, Soup, I think I'm ready, man. Climbing." He said, "Climb on." So I reached back to the wall and started climbing. My arms were still shaky, but they were cooperating. I made my way up. As I said, this third pitch was much more difficult. There was a section that essentially was like a double mantle. What that means is I had both my hands on one hold, and I had to hoist myself up over it, like getting out of the swimming pool, before I could reach up to the next hold above me. It was extremely scary at that height. And then there was another section which was essentially like a one-person trust exercise. I was on a good foothold, and I had my hand in a really good spot on the right, but I was traversing to my left. So I'm looking at where the next hold is, and it's just out of reach of my left hand. So I'm fully extended, and I know I can't reach it. So I remember realizing, in order to reach that hold, I'm going to have to let go of this good one. So I reach back, I look back at my right hand, take a deep breath, look back forward, let it out, I let go, and I catch the hold. From there, it was just a few relatively shaky but easy moves to the top. I remember I reached the anchors above, a smile on my face. I embraced my cousin, and tears were welling in my eyes. We unhooked from the anchors and we sat at the top, our legs just dangling off into space as we stared off at the Utah desert. Again, the morning was pristine. The sun was just starting to come up, and it was a beautiful light pink fading to like this dark slate gray blue with mountains making a silhouette on the horizon. And in that moment, it was as if all of that geological history of Utah that I hadn't learned growing up, it was as if it all flooded my mind all at once. I felt like Neo in The Matrix when he first learns Kung Fu. It was as if I could see that ancient ocean that used to exist in this place. I could almost feel the rumbling of the plate tectonics forcing land up and pushing the ocean west. I could see the wind whipping across, bringing grains of sand and building these sand dunes. And I could feel the 300 million years of time just slowly etching it and creating these beautiful cliffs that my cousin and I were sitting on that day on top of the world. And in that moment, sitting there, I realized a few things. First, I realized that Utah is beautiful. It's amazing, and I love this place. It has so much more to offer than the dogma and oppression I had felt like I experienced growing up. There's these mountains and these rivers and these landscapes. There's energy there that's so old and different than energy in other places. And there's life in this really hard and harsh place, and it's made stronger and better because of it. I realized that my cousin was right when he said that there's no down climbing out of this. The only way out is onward and upward. So often going through the divorce, there were so many times that I used to, and still do even, wish that I could just down climb back to what's easy, what's familiar, what I knew. But that's not how life works. Life works best when you can. I realized I had to let go and continue living my life. And in that moment, I felt that. I also realized that my cousin was right when he said that I had all the tools inside of me that I needed to complete that climb. So too did I have the tools inside of me to complete that new phase of life. You know, going through the pain and drama of the divorce, there were so many times that I felt so broken and so less than and so alone and lost. But ultimately, I had to realize that we're all basically whole already. We do have the tools inside of us that we need to be able to finish these hard things and do these hard things. I think my cousin's advice to anyone going through this is apt. He said that, and I think we should remember it, that sometimes when you're going through this, the best thing you can do is just let go, sit back on the rope, breathe, refocus, and then climb on. Thank you.
Mahalo, Kai, for sharing that with us. You know, sometimes we really do all need supermen in our lives. It can be your cousin, it can be your best friend, your wife, your husband. Sometimes it's even finding Superman in yourself. So I am humbly happy to bring up another superhero to the stage this evening. He is a University of Hawaii professor of history and Superman to two wonderful children. Let's bring up Derek Taira.
Hello, my kako. I'm a historian. I tell stories for a living. I write and talk about history. I teach history. So it's easy, but I found writing this, my story, my history, it's a little more difficult than telling someone else's story, someone else's past. You all right? I think. Does imagining a life make it real? Does talking about one as if they're on their way give them meaning? Can they be alive when they are not? Conversely, does talking about them mean they are gone? Were they never real? By not actually seeing, touching, holding, and playing with them, but only thinking, dreaming, and imagining them, mean they never existed? I struggle with this dilemma. I'm a proud father of two bright, funny, and beautiful children. My wife is a brave, strong woman who joined me on this journey to have a family in my homeland far, far away. From the time we met in graduate school, we always bantered about kids. How many, what would they look like, nicknames, their interests, the adventures, the challenges, the kind of parents we would be, the life we wanted to provide. Early on, we never decided on how many we would end up with, so we shot for the moon. At one point, we settled on 5. Each of them existing in our shared imagination as tiny humans with nicknames and a basic identity. Musubi was to be number 3. After graduate school, I moved home to begin research, writing, and teaching. Essentially, I was running the rat race of a graduate student, juggling part-time gigs, trying to finish my dissertation, something that only now I look back on with rose-tinted glasses. I understood the journey would be a long and lonely one. My wife was back on the continent, trying to finish up her own coursework and projects. We spent a lot of time apart, but we visited regularly, Her here, me there. We spoke every day and night. And sprinkled through many of those conversations were about the 5. Eventually, I completed my PhD and with extreme fortune, landed my dream job at UH. My wife and I married soon after, and she too would eventually become a professor. Professionally, we couldn't be more ecstatic. A husband-wife combo at the same university is rare, so we can consider ourselves very fortunate. We had lived in Kapahulu for a year when we learned she was pregnant with our first. We didn't know at the time that it would be a boy, because we wanted it that way. We wanted the surprise. We went through all the tests and all the excitement new parents go through. We also quickly realized that we needed a bigger place, so we moved to Kailua. Quieter and greener. We've luckily found a place and we continue to modify to make it more us. Once our son came into our lives, he was quickly the center of our world. He was go, go, go from the moment he was born, wide-eyed, and ready for the world around him. After maternity leave was used up, my wife sadly had to go to work, pre-professor. And for the next 9 months, I watched over our boy. Once again, juggling research, writing, and teaching, but I loved every minute of it. We went to the beach, bottle shops, shopping, parks, zoo, leisurely drives. Once he was in daycare, I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt lost at times, but soon found a rhythm with exercise and work. At this point, though, we no longer spoke of children numbering 5. While we joked about 5, we were less and less serious about having that many. Without explicitly talking about it, we both understood each other. But Musubi was still in the mix. She was pregnant after our son entered daycare. It almost seemed like clockwork, as our daughter, whom like our son, we didn't know until she was born, would be exactly 25 months later. We knew we wanted them spaced at least 2 years apart, and we made it happen. My wife's pregnancy with my daughter, though, was not as smooth as with my son. She felt ill more often and for longer periods of time. More foods appealed less to her. We all experienced the roller coaster of emotions that soon followed as she entered the later stages of pregnancy. Saying goodnight or asking, "Did you have enough to eat?" could quickly and easily did devolve. Again, though, she is a brave and strong woman who wanted to do this all over again and create another human inside her. Our daughter's entry into the world was, for lack of a better way of saying, different. She was born at the very start of the pandemic. She also did not want to wait until getting to the hospital and decided to be born in an ambulance on the side of H3. Since then, she has and continues to be a strong and sweet addition to the family. She is assertive, she is funny, she is extremely kind, she's extremely headstrong. Probably for me. She's impatient, she's energetic. She also is a poor sleeper with a voracious appetite. She also had some early health issues in the first few months of her life that kept my wife and I worried. We waited to have kids, and as such, being academics, we researched the possible complications that can occur when couples have children later in life. Our daughter is healthy now, and the issues that arose in those first few months have improved, but that fear created anxiety in the both of us about Musubi. Now, just before our daughter's arrival, our hope for a number of children had dropped. 5, again, no longer seemed doable, but neither was 4. But 3 seemed, yeah, we could do it. We can make it work. Actually, even a couple months after our daughter was born, we still had playful, imaginative conversations about Musubi. Like what a third child would add to our family. How musical dinner time would be. But soon, our daughter's complications were a reality check that maybe Musubi was not meant to be. A third child would tax our resources. but we knew we could make it. Teaching in the summer has proven to be a helpful line of added income. Grandparents, especially my wife's parents, were supportive for a third, and have been very gracious with our other 2 children. Our home would need an addition, and the kids could share a room for a few years while we saved. I am one of 3 boys. I have many fond and tough memories of growing up with 3 brothers. But especially now, I appreciate having both of them, both my brothers, and all of their young children. It's just age, the unknown, the what ifs. Once our daughter was 6 months, our fun conversations about Musubi dwindled to passing comments and jokes. Like, wow, imagine if Musubi were here. Or, hey, you were pregnant this time last year. Or, can you imagine what would it be like to have a newborn right now? See, kids are amazing for all kinds of reasons. They are beautiful, minds like sponges, and everything is new to them. Christmas has taken on a whole new meaning for me. I love watching them enjoying foods they love. Ice cream and shaved ice particularly. They also expose, at least to me, the circle of life. My parents are getting older with more health problems with each passing year. No longer can Christmas celebrations be something easy for all of us, and we can just pass away and say, never mind, we'll get you next year. These assumptions are actually a gamble, especially in the light of the recent pandemic. Life is short, and opportunities to really live and enjoy life are finite. My kids, without knowing it, have only emphasized the importance of family in my mind and heart. And seeing them play and fight with each other, cry and laugh together, wrestle and hit and bite each other, all bring out that circle of life that connects us all together. Those experiences are great in the moment, powerful as reflections, and heart-melting as stories. So to know that Musubi will not be a part of that is sad for me to come and accept. Not only for my family, but selfishly for myself. Musubi's disappearance is sad for me directly in that their fading affirms my own life cycle. That I only have a finite set of experiences to enjoy, a finite set of Christmases, a finite set of birthdays. Before, imagining Musubi maintained an idea of my youth, that the future remains open and limitless. But their departure only reinforces the reality that life is precious and limited. But perhaps that is the gift of Musubi, to help me come to terms with life, its cycle, its meaning. Perhaps Musubi then did exist, even in the briefest of moments in my life and that of my family's. By understanding, rationalizing, and even embracing my mortality, I can then be better prepared for the realities that lie ahead as I age. Still, I feel like mourning a little bit. Musubi still occupies a space, small, but still small in space in my imagination, simply because they were there for so long. It was almost as if I could sometimes see their face, hear their voice, feel the warmth and touch. It also is quite possible that I still have some ways to go, and letting go of the life I believe is still full and open of endless possibilities, however undefined. But that is okay. With grief, eventually comes acceptance, and I know I'll get there. Musubi will never be, but their gift is to help me continue living a life as happy as can be. Mahalo, Tapo.
Let's give another warm round of applause for all the storytellers thus far this evening. Wonderful. So, just another quick story about, once again, my modern love of wine. We do have a Corbière Vindegris Rosé. This is made by Domaine de Fonsan. I urge you to all go take a sip right now. So we are traveling to the Golden Crescent. This is going to be on the Mediterranean coast of France. We're thinking warm sunshine, cerulean simmering seas, and the smell of herbs de Provence in the air. I want everyone to go get a glass because we are going to have a short intermission.
So that's a rad long that's always there. March 2020. March 2020 is the same exact video because in February I was like, hi guys, and then all of a sudden I had the video and I was like, you know, I can get my hair cut. Yeah. So when I did it then, I trimmed it. It was good. But the trim was good, so I was like, I but I'm glad it went Music? Yeah, Wednesday.
Testing. I can't hear you. Speak up, boy. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3. I see what you mean. I'm gonna lean in. Yeah, this is great. I'm good. I feel good.
actually built my
We're gonna start in about 5 minutes, guys. 5 minutes.
Aloha everyone, we will be starting in about 2 minutes.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I'm ready for party. How about you? Yeah. I think that should be the end.
What?
I think that should be at the end.
You like to think?
Yeah.
Our last performer of the evening. We'll do that. It reminds me of like the thing your dad said about when you were a kid. I can't remember when you were a kid and like you like went up to the stage or something.
For Auntie Ivy's wedding. What the fuck is that? He's not.
I know it's funny, right? I look good.
All right, let's bring it back in. Wonderful. I hope everyone got their drinks refreshed, a bit more chocolate. Through wine we are telling stories. We have the modern love, the love of the wine itself, the love of the family passed through generations. And like we saw with this rosé, the love of the land. Lubriac actually once said that through wine, we see the land through the ancestors' eyes. So I hope you all can actually experience a little bit of Southern France in your glass tonight. Next up to the stage, we have the resident in-house dance awardee, one of the best dance moves in the Treehouse game. Let's bring it up for Aga. Woo! I put my hat pants on.
We woke at 2:30 in the morning to assess the damage. Our most fruitful papaya tree, gone. The crown that held 30 beautiful fresh papayas ready to pick, gone. Just a sad, tall, long tree stump remains from what we could see in the dark. We also heard the banana tree cracking right outside of our bedroom window, and I swore something was going to ravage through the house and burst into the window and kill us all. The wind that night was relentless, swaying our trees, making noise so loud we kept waking in the night and possibly causing hallucinations or dreams that I later diagnosed as reflections of self and lessons from the subconscious. I love a good dream analysis. I could hear our son sleeping in the middle of us. He is 8 years old and the size of a teenager. It's a battle we don't know how to win. I'm starting to think of the new research I recently learned about. 20% of the US population are considered to be highly sensitive people, which is they experience the world more deeply. Where am I? They hear their favorite songs more passionately. They get into their tasks more deeply. They experience pain more severely and express emotion more openly. I always wondered why Kai had trouble sleeping. Ever since he was a baby, he had to be near me to sleep. It was cute, sometimes, but mostly exhausting. Probably a big contributor to my feelings
that I'm a failure as a new mom with little support from family and high expectations mixed with compromised visions of what motherhood should be or could be. Was I supposed to feel this anxious all the time, faking my happiness at the park? The wind continued howling outside. It's 2:35 and Pat and I cannot believe that nobody gave us a warning for this fucking wind. We heard about the rain warning, but not this crazy ass wind that was ravaging through our beautiful backyard. If there was a warning, Pat would probably, I don't know, rope down some plants and bring in the potted plants, and he's like Mr. Green Thumb with creating beautiful oasis backyards anywhere we live. The missile warning came, not the wind warning, that was a different button. I went to bed super early that night, and I was sitting on the couch with our family, the kids were fighting, and Pat was watching a Christmas classic, Die Hard. Definitely not a movie for kids. We just finished eating Jack in the Box because I wasn't in the mood to win any culinary awards that evening, because why do I have to make dinner every night? Why do these people have to eat all the time? As I'm sitting there, half in and out of a food coma, thank you, Jack in the Box, I finally excuse myself, stating that I'm feeling overstimulated and I need to lay down for a minute. My plan to escape works. By the way, overstimulation is a real thing, especially for people with trauma brain. I occasionally have to pause and check in with my nervous system, like right now, when I feel a trigger coming on and my body wants to go into fight or flight. I pause and I put a hand over my chest and say, "You're safe. You're safe." Next, I hear screaming and crying. Pat accidentally clipped Kai's nail a little too close to the skin, I assume, and Kai is having a breakdown over it. Highly sensitive people feel pain more strongly. But in that moment, we forget and we say things like, "It's okay, it's just a little cut, buddy. Don't cry, it's fine." And by we, I mean Pat, because I'm still lying down in my room allowing him to handle it and secretly feeling so glad that it's not me this time. Parenting is a constant juggle of who's managing what meltdown and the test and what helpful parenting tool we can grab in the desperate time of need. Neither of us grew up with the words like gentle parenting or attachment parenting. We just do the very best we can. But I worry every single day that we're doing stuff that will fuck up our kids for the rest of their life. It's a feeling I've been told that doesn't go away the entire time you're a parent, and then you die. That night, I ended up having some crazy dreams. Let me list off a few highlights here. Number 1, we're getting evicted from our apartment. For the record, we don't live in an apartment, and I'm very grateful to say that we don't even have a landlord, so the chances of us getting evicted are very, very slim. But the fear in the dream is very real, and so is my mission to uncover the meaning of it. Next in my dream, our friend Eric talks about therapy and how COVID was a big awakening for people to seek therapy. I paused to look away from typing this story and realized that my finger was resting on a button and there's a row of number 3s on screen as I'm typing this story. Quickly look up the meaning of what does that mean? Seeing 333 repeatedly may be a sign that a looming decision needs your attention. It's a sign that your path ahead is clear for moving forward. The 333 angel number indicates that despite your fears, anxieties, misled plans, or wrong turns, you're on the right path. The universe is urging you to keep going. I cry a few tears of relief, or maybe joy, as I wonder daily if what I'm building up in my business is really going to bring me what I envision. The next dream sequence is a weather woman who's apparently shooting her newscast story from a poorly designed studio space in her home. She's also wearing a sheer blouse and a jacket over it, but there's no hiding her exposed nipple. As I watch her segment, I think to myself, geez, somebody could have really tested that shot ahead of time. Sleep story number 4. Patrick and I are in Prague, or another European city. I think it's the same place we're getting evicted from, but at this point of the dream story, we're not worried about that. Instead, we're exploring parts of our neighborhood that bring me back to my childhood. I see rundown buildings and tables and chairs that once served as beautiful scenes for meals and vacations. But I never vacationed in Prague as a child, only as an adult. Either way, looking back, I now see that dream was just taking me back to the nostalgia of these moments. And how much I wish I was traveling abroad right now. Is it even healthy to fantasize about traveling to Europe this much daily? Next scene. Patrick and I run into someone we remember from the past. A cute girl we knew separately at different points in our life. I forget how he knows her, but I know her from traveling abroad back in 2006. We chat briefly, and then later, I find him sitting a little too close to our old friend with his arm wrapped around her as if he's providing comfort or maybe flirting. I come by and say a little too close for comfort and urge her to move. I then find myself in the library looking at books. I love looking at books, especially in local bookstores owned by real book lovers. And I come across a children's book about dancing. I think I'm showing the book to Yuna, my daughter, but it seemed like up to this point in the dream, we didn't have kids, but then again, I'm dreaming, so let's just go with it. Pat tells me something truly profound, like, I hope you see your true worth, which sounds so nice and puts a smile on my face until I realize that he was actually talking to the cute friend. And how the guy she's dating or was dating is actually a loser for not seeing her value and worth as a woman. The wind is still howling and I'm waking from my dreams. I'm immediately drawn to the drama of its intensity. I don't like how powerful and damaging it is, but I am intrigued. And now for the dream interpretation of this story. The eviction. That's my mind worrying that we never have enough even when we do. That's a scarcity mindset that's hard to quit, especially if you were raised in communist Poland where things ran out all the time. And if you didn't get your paper for that article of clothing or bread, then you'd be screwed until next week when you can get that paper again. Or so I'm told because I was too young to understand. I do, however, remember standing in line waiting for our turn. That's also a fear that money is here one day and gone the next. That money causes stress, and that financial freedom and building generational wealth is a big undertaking. Are you sure you want to take this on, Aga? Can you really do it? Shit. I guess all this money mindset work I've been doing all this time needs a lot of work on. Tuning up. As a young kid, when your dad gambles the family's money and you have the Polish mafia showing up to your house in the middle of the night, banging the door down, demanding that your mom hands over her fur coat because your dad mismanaged the deal, so that was their payback, I guess it takes more than a couple of books to get over this whole money fear thing. And the therapy that my friend mentions, it's just a friendly reminder that therapy works. That's it. Patrick cozying up to another woman has nothing to do with my fears of him wandering off, seeking other ladies. I'm lucky to feel completely confident that it wouldn't happen. This dream sequence was a reminder that I need to raise my own self-worth and believe in my deservingness in all that I seek. Damn it. And if there's any checking out of other women, it will be done together, out on a fun date night. I think we're due for another strip club night, honey. And finally, the wind. What a cool element of underlying fears, frustrations, and pain. And rebirth as a woman stepping into her true self while breaking cycles of abuse and addiction and breaking free of self-limiting beliefs. Oh, my final interpretation of the evening's dreams is perhaps a longing for my wilder and free self that existed not too long ago, loving the woman that was and celebrating the woman that is, a little wild, a little relentless and free, like the raging wind.
And nothing says modern love like wife and husband time at the strip club. I'll cheers to that. Woo! Next up, she has a PhD in education and a killer bike squad. Visit her at Spin Kailua. Let's give it up for Laura. Woo!
Oh, you're okay. You're good.
Are you pointing at me, Sean? No. All right. So I'll give you a title. So the title of the story is Life and Love Are Like a Bike Ride. So I met my husband when I was still married. Or actually, he actually met my butt when I was still married. And that doesn't really sound right, so I gotta back things up. So, to clarify, in the winter of 2015, when I was legally separated from my then husband for nearly a year, okay, so it's legit, I started getting involved with my local bike shop. So this shop was beginning to offer indoor spin classes in what was essentially a converted shack, and this was named aptly the Spin Shack. So you bring your own bike, you get led through a high-intensity workout, and the classes were essentially for the fledgling team that this new bike shop was trying to build. I was eventually recruited for this team, which at the time said a lot for the caliber of riders they were recruiting. Do you have a pulse? And a bike. Oh, you're in. So anyway, so back to the Spin Shack, me being married, my now husband meeting my butt. So little did I know, but new husband was friends with owner of the new-ish bike shop. And every week, new husband would get his friend to strategically place his bike directly behind mine. He's an axe man. Found this out later. So this strategic positioning happened for a few months apparently. And I don't really remember talking to him much, but I do remember doing this awkward dance, trading places in like the very cramped soul changing room that was at the front of the shop. Again, it was basically a shack. So there was like a, oh, excuse me, and sorry. The only thing I can remember is I thought he was cute. So, not too long into my time spinning at the shack, I decided to change my email address in the bike system. So the email address used my married name, and given that things weren't really going all that well in the divorce, like there was not a lot of hope reparations would be made, given that he left me for his producer. So I do have to hand it to her though. She always supported his work in ways that I just was not interested in. And, you know, in thinking back, I really should probably take her out for drinks for saving me from that time in my life. So, anyway, I decided to change my email back when I was in the shop. So from my married name to my maiden name. So my married name was laurairamoto@gmail.com to morrison.laurajane@gmail.com. So obviously this tipped the bike shop employee off that there is a significant change happening in my life, given that I don't look Japanese, i.e. I was most likely getting divorced. So new husband. His name is actually Tyler, and we can call him Tyler, and he's here. Hi! So, new husband, Tyler, is out to dinner with Spin Shack owner, and his name is Rob. Rob is not here because he still owns a Spin Shack, a bike shop in Toronto, so 3 different separate shops, and a 100+ person bike team. So things worked out well for Rob. So Tyler and Rob are out for dinner, and Rob says, "You know, she changed her name in the system. I think she's divorced now. You should message her." Or he said something like this because they were young men and drinking at a sketchy place called Mayday Malone's. So Tyler messages me on Facebook because he doesn't have my number yet, and he says, "Hey Laura, if you're interested in doing a mountain bike ride in the future, let me know. I'll get a bike set up for you." My immediate thought was, oh, it's because I came in last at that mountain biking race last week. Rob is having regrets about recruiting me. Shit. So I respond saying, "Oh, I'm very new to the world of mountain biking, and I'm just getting my feet wet," and essentially that I would definitely be interested. And looking back on that timestamp message now, my first thought was, wow, I responded less than an hour later. Keen? And who says, "I'm just getting my feet wet"? Nerve alert. It's definitely not cool in text message format. Anywho, I did not think this was a romantic proposition in any way, so I think I wasn't overthinking it. I was just being me, which was unfortunately, or is unfortunately, not smooth or slick. But he followed up with, "And maybe we could get a beer after." At that point, I caught on to what was actually unfolding here, and I of course said yes. And it rained on our first date, so the mountain biking didn't happen. We climbed walls indoors together instead, link to Kai's story, rock climbing. So when I was writing this, you know, we were climbing walls together. I thought, okay, that's a metaphor for something, but whatever. So we've had many epic bike rides since, and our time together has certainly been a wild ride. That's a metaphor. Oh, but not for sex. Well, I guess it could be for sex, but my parents are also watching this. So, anyway.
Mr. and Mrs. Morrison.
So this relationship wild ride has taken us traveling to a multitude of countries and up many metaphorical and literal mountains. Sometimes we rode through great conditions, and sometimes the conditions or the terrain sucked. But that's life, right? And love. So in true poetic style, like our first date, it rained on our wedding day, which was at the height of a Toronto summer. And by the way, Americans, that means hot and sunny. We are not submerged in snow year round. I know what you think of us. Especially you, Kino. But I hear rain on your wedding day is good luck. So when I was writing this, it dawned on me that for my first wedding, we actually got married in Ireland, I'm Irish, where it rains all the time, but it was actually sunny on that day. Go figure. So the minister who wed Tyler and me on that rainy day left us with this piece of advice that I'm about to bestow on you now. So a relationship is like going on a bike ride together. Sometimes you will be side by side, and sometimes one person will be in front of the other, pulling the other along. But the important thing is you're heading in the same direction and you're working together. So Tyler and I met spinning frantically on one spot, and we continued our relationship out on the open road. We've been heading in the same direction ever since. Thank you very much.
I like the Asna part. Once again, thank you to all our performers. I would like to also mention the last wine of the evening that we are featuring was the Il Gocetto coming out of Piemonte, Italy. You know, throughout this night, we've talked about love of the land, love of our families, and now circling back, the love of story, right? So something about this wine that's really quite remarkable to me is that this is based off of the Brachetto grape. The Brachetto grape, way back in the day, they actually say that Mark Antony brought this to Queen Cleopatra to seduce her. It was known as an aphrodisiac. It was known as, you know, something sexy to get the mood going. So what we learned from this is, when in doubt, bring your honey some wine. And with that, we're gonna bring up the marvelous Rachel to the stage. She's an attorney, but she's also real badass, the only woman to actually cross the finish line in a marathon on hands, I hear? Handstand? Okay, Kai just fucking with me, never mind guys. But still a resident badass, let's give it up for Rachel.
That's pretty amazing, the crossing the finish line on hand. I'm not used to that, Kai, thanks. Okay, we're gonna...
Pull the mic up a little.
Yeah, we're gonna do some renegotiating of things. Okay. Okay, can you guys hear me good? Yeah? Okay, good deal. I'm running, breathing, looking behind me, checking my watch, panting, crying, looking behind me again, saying, "Kamsahamnida, kamsahamnida." I was told that means thank you in Korean, but I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly. What I do know is that my accent is atrocious. Still, it seems the most reasonable thing to do to show that I'm not just some rude American blatantly barreling through the people I'm passing as I'm looking toward the finish line area. All the while, I'm hoping and praying that the detour-laden cab ride I took to get here didn't drop me off too late and too far away. As I run, my peacoat lapels slap me in my face. The camera I brought to capture the image of my youngest sister, actually my younger sister, finishing her first marathon in Seoul, is banging against my chest. The lapels slapping me in my face, the camera thumping me, it reminds me of the intensity and the sort of silliness you experience when you're undertaking CPR training. You know what I mean. You're pressing into the dummy's chest, and you're sort of feeling silly and sort of feeling serious after you've just told someone, "You, call 911. But this experience, it doesn't quite feel like it's going to bring me back to life. Instead, the compressions I'm experiencing feel more like someone jabbing me in my chest and mushing me in my face, telling me, "See, you even got this wrong." Despite these frantic feelings, I continue to run. And I'm snotting because, as I mentioned, I'm crying, and I'm feeling defeated and panicked and pretty nearly out of my mind. This cannot be happening. I turn and I look over my shoulder a third time. And there I see her. And I can barely believe my eyes. My body feels like it took flight. I literally have no sense of what's happening below my neck. My mouth feels like it's going to split because I'm smiling so much, and my eyes are joyfully flooded with tears. All I can do is yell, scream, "Sister!" I'm coughing, laughing, regaining awareness of my body, and throwing my arms in the air. What I'm doing is akin to what I'm sure you've seen in the movies. That sort of jumping, flailing, skip dancing thing the character does when they're totally overtaken by some super joyful experience. That's me. Hollering and dancing and wanting to make sure my sister sees me, sees that I didn't mess this up, that I'm here, that I made it for her. "Sister!" And she sees me. Our eyes lock. She screams, squeals, turns into Superwoman right before my eyes. I mean, literally. She pretty much up and swooshed right past me after running 26 of the 26.2 miles I came to Seoul, Korea to see her finish. As she runs past, I just yell, tears streaming down my face, "Go, sister!" We did it. This is one of the most joyful experiences I've ever had. I didn't know such elation was possible, especially when despair seemed like the more likely emotion. Maybe that's why it's so intense. my joy in that moment, because I was just on the cusp of a very opposite emotion. Even when I tell the story, I feel both. The elation that I made it and the panic that I almost didn't arrive to the home stretch of that marathon in time. But above all, I feel gratitude, sheer gratitude, that I have a run through the streets of soul kind of familial bond. I can feel that, even now, running through my veins, experiencing that freedom to run, to scream, to cry, to push, to wonder if you can make it, and then, yes, succeed. Ah, I call that love, all of it. It's all of that love that bursts my heart open with joy and allows it to shatter with deep sorrow, as it does when I think of Ahmaud Arbery's life and the manner in which it was taken. Perhaps I should have warned you that this piece might feel a little bit like we're running helter-skelter, pell-mell, or whatever other word you use to describe going fast and in an uncertain manner. Well, this is your warning. We are, in this piece, running, out of breath, feeling our lungs burn, our heart pound, and searching for modern love. I pretty much think I found it. Can sum it up pretty quickly. Modern love is unexpected. It's elation, and it's soul-gripping. It's sorrow. Actually, I venture to say this is ancient love as well. And while 1923 isn't exactly ancient, I guess it's not quite modern either. And so I'll borrow from one of my favorite poets, Khalil Gibran, in a book he published in 1923, The Prophet. In this story, when tasked by the people of Orphalese to speak to us of joy and sorrow, his main character, Al-Mustafa, shares this: "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the self-same well from which your laughter arises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? Breathing, running, panting, crying, looking to the roots beneath me. This month, 2 years ago, I ran Kalawahine Trail to honor the day Ahmaud would have celebrated his birth. 2.23 miles for his birthday, just a few weeks from today. I ran with one of my dearest friends who introduced me to the trail, and I remember telling him how something about Ahmaud's death, the way he was murdered, where he was murdered, what he was doing, running, it hit me differently than the murders of other black men. Ahmaud was just running through a neighborhood, being curious, while black. I shared with my friend that one of my favorite things to do when I travel is to throw on my running shoes and just jog a few miles around wherever I'm staying, to get a feel for the place. Running, being outside, seeing nature, that brings me joy. I shared with my friend that even in this joy and this excitement for adventure, even before Ahmaud's death, when I went for a run, especially in a new place, I'd make sure I wore clothes that looked like exercise clothes. I wanted to be certain I was easily identifiable as a person experiencing a bit of exercise, not casing a neighborhood, not being curious while black, just a runner. Even then, I'd be careful not to run too fast in an unknown neighborhood because I didn't want to look like I was running from something. I'd be mindful of the time of day I went out, usually in the morning, because I don't like running in the heat, and running alone in the dark of night is, well, just asking for trouble, I've been told. I'd make a point to speak a cheerful greeting to those I passed. Good morning. So I didn't seem like I was trying to hide or go unnoticed. I remember my friend just standing there, dumbfounded. As we stretched and recounted these experiences, I could see in his eyes he sort of believed me and sort of couldn't believe me at the same time. He said he never thought of any of that. He just ran when he wanted, wearing whatever he wanted. Sharing this with my friend as we prepared to run for Ahmaud, I was feeling so many things. I felt sad, and at the same time bewildered that my reality was so very different from his. Amidst that, I also, perhaps strangely, felt joy and deep gratitude. Joyful gratitude for a body that allows me to run, a friend who will listen, who will learn, and run with me in solidarity, even though we look very different and the world doesn't treat us the same. Through the trees of Kalawahine, over the roots and stream crossings, into the open spaces and around tight bends, to the ends of the earth and back again. We'd run together. He'd run from my sisters. He'd run from my daughters. He'd run for people he'd never met, who just wanted to run and not think about anything else. Modern love. The last time I was on that trail, I was introducing a newfound friend to that path. Somehow the conversation turned to his father, who this time last year was diagnosed with cancer, which required my new friend to become his father's caretaker. This role change was unexpected, as he thought he was just going for a quick trip to visit his father on the weekend. That trip turned into an extended stay, where my friend learned to become a caregiver during a pandemic at a cancer treatment center in Seattle. Walking swiftly, climbing, panting, tears, looking to the roots beneath us. We kept our eyes to the ground, mindful to the roots we stepped over and around. I can feel him remembering the weight of the past year. He hadn't expected this when I invited him to this trail. I hadn't either. I tell him this trail can do that, make you feel deeper than you might have been ready to reach. I shared with him how I was introduced to the trail, explained to him that somehow I am used to joy and sorrow on this trail. Joy that his father is alive and recovering, and the heartache of the past year evokes feelings of sorrow. And while he celebrated the deepened relationship he now has with his father, he noted that the path they took to reach this point is one he wouldn't wish for anyone else. I shared that I didn't know that struggle completely, but I understood the unexpected transition from child to caregiver, from watching my own father's physical strength deteriorate, as severe nerve damage increasingly limited his mobility. The reality of my dad's declining condition became clear to me during my own quick trip home. This was a number of years ago, but the memory is less distant. I remember my dad laying on the floor because moving was too painful. He'd been on the floor in what used to be my old room for the past couple of days. One day, after my mom had been out for a while and it was just me and my dad at home, he had to use the bathroom, but his pee bottles were full. I didn't realize this until I heard him sort of moan, groaning from where I was down the hall. Prior to that moment, I hadn't really processed that, if he can't get off the floor, he probably has to pee in a bottle. I think he would have preferred that I remained ignorant of this truth. You see, he's a Southern man, and my dad was raised with gentlemen and ladies, and they have roles and norms. And he was not okay with his daughter being the only person in the house able to empty even just one of his pee bottles so that he could relieve himself. When I came to the room in response to his groans, I can remember him nearly crying, telling me what was wrong, and how much he apologized for having to ask this of me. That was so strange to me, so completely unnatural. In my mind, I was thinking, of course I would empty your bottle. I'd give you a bath if you needed it. I would take you to the bathroom. I'm your child. But to my dad, I'm a lady. And despite all the love and commitment that comes with family, at least the way we were raised, asking for help in this way, it was a hardship for him. Modern love. My dad used to run 6 miles a day, every day before work. Now he can barely stand for 6 minutes. He gets around in a mobility scooter and isn't able to lift more than 5 pounds. Well, actually, he'd tell you he can, but if he did, he wouldn't be able to lift much of anything else shortly thereafter. Amidst his pain, he rolls through life with a smile and a joy I don't fully understand. Perhaps his joy and sorrow are so close, I can't tell the difference. When I run, I think of him, of how much I used to hate when he ran with me, because he would always talk the whole way. And there I would be, running, panting, crying, and wanting to scream, wishing I was fast enough to run ahead so that I can look back and relish how far behind me I'd left him. But he was always fast enough, always in shape enough, and always ready enough to run with me, right next to me, to share his lessons, and to love me. Love me in his enveloping, unapologetic, jarring, and pushy way, which I've come to appreciate more and more as time flies by. This was my dad, always. He did this, his running lessons, until he couldn't. I remember how much my mom cried at my oldest sister's wedding. My dad had to ask his brother to step in to finish the daddy-daughter dance because he wasn't able to stand. Though it wasn't my body, I felt his pain. My mom was crying, and my mom doesn't cry. I think it was more than his physical pain that pulled my dad so heavily down to his seat. Something in that pain also pulled me, and it drew the weight of my attention to him and my mom. I watched them hold each other. His face was strained. A part of me knew that I was supposed to be watching my sister dance, but I watched my parents instead. Joy and sorrow was so plain to me that day. I could see them thanking God, perhaps questioning God, and then thanking God again. Or maybe they were just offering praise to God the whole time. Still, I couldn't fathom that their tears were only tears of joy. I asked my mom if she was okay. There's something in the eyes and the muscles of the face that indicate the depth of emotion that a person is accessing as they cry. I don't recall my mom answering me. I think my mom was somewhere on the razor's edge between joy and sorrow. Modern love. My relationship with my marathoning sister, I often feel is unearthly. We are sisters, yes, but really, she is my anumkhara, my soul friend. John O'Donohue explains this Gaelic term by sharing that, unfortunately, there is no mirror in the world where you can catch a glimpse of your soul. You can never be fully present to yourself. The one you love, your anumkhara, she is your soul friend. That is the truest reflection of your soul. I catch glimpses of my soul in my sister. Perhaps it's because our sense of joy and sorrow comes from the shared. Sorry, it's my sister's birthday, y'all. So, sorry. Okay. Perhaps it's because our sense of joy and sorrow comes from the shared wellspring. Not all of our joys and sorrow spring from the same wellspring, mind you, but just enough, I think, to bind us. Our Father, no, not in the Christian sense, although given our upbringing, I'm sure some would say that's the case. To be frank, I'm too bound up in my own religious learnings and unlearnings to argue that point. No, our shared well of joy and sorrow, that space on the razor's edge, that strain in the muscles around our eyes, that say more than the tears that stain our cheeks, our soul reflection, I think that stems from our relationship with our earthly Father. In that relationship, our simultaneous desire to impress and to not care come together in similar ways for us. It looks like trying really hard to live up to get it right, and to just not give a shit. Or flying fuck, or whatever expletive you want to use to describe running out of all the cares you could possibly muster. That contradiction-filled relationship we have with our dad, in some way, it binds us and reminds us to push, to grow, to learn, and to explore new ways of living, new ways of loving. So I suppose we were simply destined to be running through the streets of soul friends, sisters, running, panting, crying, hoping, being. She enlivened by what she had achieved in running her first marathon, me ecstatic that I was able to bear witness. Both of us, enamored with the magical moment that so nearly evaded us, and we couldn't have guessed it, didn't really plan for it, and are so darn amazed that it even came together the way that it did. So sometimes, when I think of love, modern or ancient, and I try to find a phrase to capture it, my phrases come to me in the form of images and feelings: running, panting, crying, looking over my shoulder, and feeling as though I am running on the razor's edge of joy and sorrow. Modern love. Thank you.
and there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Can we get one more big round of applause and mahalo for all the storytellers here this evening? Everyone stand and please take a bow, please. Your performers, you killed it this evening. Also, a special thank you to Kai and Laura for organizing this amazing event. A shout out to Manoa Chocolate, Tammy, for sharing your expertise with us this evening. And thank you to all of you for coming in with open hearts and listening with open ears and open minds. So with that being said, let's take a cheers. And Cully has one last little poem for us this evening.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I'm ready for party. How about you?
We just wanted to say one more thing. Thank you again so much for coming out tonight. This was a really cool event. I feel like went way better than we expected. We have a gift for Don and Kino. Everybody say hi to Don and Kino in the back. None of this would be possible without them. They create this beautiful space. They just opened a space in Kahala, by the way. Tell your friends. A lot of good open space. We may do this same event again in April at Kahala. So tell your friends. Anybody who missed it, come check it out. Give it up one more time for the performers and for the space. We love it so much. Thank you guys. Thank you. Continue to hang and mingle. Oh, we have other gifts and stuff too. We have stuff for Kale and Ari. Thank you from Chuckaria Uncourt and Manoa Chocolate. Thank you guys so much. We'll do it officially in a second. But thank you guys so much. Feel free to chill and hang. We're going to have some music and stuff. Maybe some people want to sing. I don't know. So, thank you guys.
Hi,